welcome, black. Disco hard in the hit like bats. Took my Sabbath, I can relax. Like boomerang, I come right back. Like boomerang, I come right back. Just like yo-yos, come right back. Don't be no-shows, come right back. Don't be loco, come right. Look, welcome, black.
Definitely clipped. Sorry for blowing out your eardrums, but we're back.
Yeah, we're back. But your ears aren't.
Your ears are bummed.
They're gone.
But they won't be after you hear this fireness that we're about to drop.
Let's get it.
What I'm saying? Black on black.
I'm down. Let's do it.
We are back. It's been, I don't even know how long it's been. It's probably been a few months since we have graced your eardrums, unless you've just been watching and supporting while we've been away, which I know there actually have been a fair amount of you guys who have been doing that, and we appreciate that. We know we have some new audiences that have kind of joined in since December, and we want to say welcome. My name is George.
I'm Kadri.
And this is Black
on Black.
And we are so stoked you're here. Man, we started this a couple years ago. We've been off and on, but man, we're really excited for 2021. We got some plans, got some ideas to be consistent and talk about a lot of things, that some DMs and some questions that you guys have been sending in.
Woo-hoo.
And some things that we're passionate about. Man, we don't always agree, but we always love each other.
That's true.
And we have the same goals. And that's for all of us to create a healthy place for us to have some really difficult discussions about all of us with inclusion and promoting some change moving forward.
Yes, sir.
In relation to Black and white and brown and just really all kinds of different people who have experienced either oppression or, exclusivity, or in all kind of manner of different things. So yeah, we're excited. Anything you want to share before we hop into today's episode?
Pop chips aren't that great.
Pop chips. Wait, which ones do you have?
I have the bold cheddar and sour cream.
Okay, the cheddar and sour cream aren't dope, but the barbecue ones are kind of fun.
I haven't tried them, but
the tangy barbecue pop chips.
Chips. I know you're scouting us for a sponsorship. I refuse to represent your product.
Aren't they vegan or gluten free or something?
They're gluten free, but
that's probably the only gluten free thing.
They're definitely not vegan, but
okay. I don't know. I don't know.
So
that's the only vegan thing I eat.
So irritating. All right. What's up? What's good, George? What are we talking about?
All right, so check it out. So if you're listening today we're dropping this episode on Martin Luther King Day.
MLK.
MLK Day, January 18th, 2021. And so this is something that I think we're actually kind of aligned, at least in our frustrations about this.
Yeah, we have some different approaches, or I guess our slightly different perspectives and how we see it being.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
But some common frustrations about just kind of
sorry for not finishing that thought. Continue. Go
just kind of the overall. How would you even describe it? Describe it?
Okay. I guess I would describe it as a. I'm
gonna turn you down a little bit.
Oh, for sure. That is very true.
You loud.
There's a. I guess I don't even know exactly how to describe it. And I don't know if this is an appropriate way to say it, but I think it communicates the idea at least. I think there's kind of a social expectation for, us to, celebrate the memory of MLK. And I think that expectation, we kind of all grew up learning, at least from what I know, most people have had a very similar history lesson about MLK and the civil rights movement and everything like that. But there's almost this social expectation that we're supposed to all kind of have the same. I'm not describing it well.
I would pimp it out. I would say a lot more crass. I'd be like, stop pimping out MLK.
Okay, all right, yeah, that's actually a real okay. You know what? We'll start with that. We'll start with that. Stop pimping out MLK. Stop pimping out MLK.
Yeah,
I'm with it.
So, and I think I can probably put words to some of your frustrations, but correct me if I'm wrong. There is, I love MLK. I grew up obviously learning a ton about him. My parents taught me a ton about him. I love reading a lot of his work and a lot of his different, books, or not books, but pamphlets and stuff he's put out. But and so I have a deep respect for a lot of the stuff that he, preached and taught and different things like that. But it's very interesting around this time of the year, MLK Day, and how much, every business, every church, every like on social media, you see all these people posting these quotes, and they're usually like the same like 4 or 5 quotes. And, we just kind of have this like, yay for MLK and yay for, racial reconciliation and that and all these different things. And like, there's kind of this weird celebration for like one day or one weekend, right? And it's the 3-day weekend, everyone parties, not this year because of COVID, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and then it's just kind of like, we go right back into the same norm, the same thing that we've been doing. And it's at least for me, it just becomes so much more evident how little people actually know about MLK and how much he's been, and I use this phrase in a crass way, but how much he's been pimped out and how much we have kind of made him a figurehead for the social rights movement, which he obviously was very prominent and, a major force for that. Not the only one. There's a lot of people who had lots to do with that, but he was obviously, a major force for that, 100%. But we have pimped him out to be this hero and this like, and we pretend like we celebrate him, we love MLK, but it's kind of like, do we really love what he really was like talking? And yeah, he's got these sound bites that are great, but the way the message, the message behind those like big quotes we love to like say, and we love those things we love to quote on MLK Day, the way that we actually get to that, the way we get to his I have a dream, the way we like actually get to the mountaintop, those like famous speeches, right? The way we actually get to that point, it causes a lot of uncomfort for everyone, for Black people, for white people, for people of like high social economic status, of people of maybe mid-class. Like, it causes a lot of discomfort. And it's kind of like, at least for me, when I'm watching, I'm kind of like, all right, so are we only down for MLK like one day of the year?
It's like on MLK Day, everybody uses him as like a vehicle for sharing these like very empty sound bites or aphorisms, and
it feels
just like very
empty.
cliche ideas, and like just like, okay, cool, you're giving this really surface level observation of who this man was, but we're not having like a actual discussion about what that movement, what the civil rights movement was, what Martin Luther King's ideas were, what his ideological stances were and stuff like that. What were like actual real life implications of some of the ideas that he had that we don't like, that's not like a general conversation that we have. Like,
totally.
The dude had some ideologically, for a lot of people, I think if you really sat and talked about MLK, you might not like what you find out about him.
Well, that goes to the
point. Not to say that he had any bad ideas. I don't think he had any, but like,
no, but it goes to the point to where like, like, again, I like, it's really weird because you see people who talk about how much we love MLK, and I'm like, well, factually, that's not true, because he was assassinated in 1968. In 1967, he was voted on the cover of Time magazine as the most hated man in America. So he wasn't like, what I'm saying? We're all walking around going, yeah, we love MLK. You were saying, but it took us over 10 years, but it took us like 10, 11 years
after his assassination.
For us to make it a holiday. And even when that was like introduced as a possibility, there was a ton of resistance to that. And there was a lot of people who was like, why are we don't, they gave the kind of the classic BS, well, we only give holidays to presidents. He's not really he's not a president. Why would we give him, but like people did not love him during that time. I mean, obviously the people who were with his movement loved him, but there was a ton of resistance and a lot of hatred, not just resistance. That's almost put it unfairly. There was a lot of hatred towards him, and his ideas, his overall ideas of racial equality, and the ways that we would accomplish racial equality. There was hatred towards him for that.
I think it's really interesting because I feel like this is just an idea that kind of rises up in my mind and kind of always has. I think like the way that we kind of we don't admit to, but we kind of view Martin Luther King, or at least the way that he's used in like our like, you know, everyday discussions or whatever, or on MLK Day, is as if like there was the you know, the March in Salem, and then all of a sudden everyone was like, oh, kumbaya, we're on the same page.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, this guy's got it. He's nailed it.
After his I Have a Dream speech, everyone was like, yeah, let's do it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
no.
did I say, wait, what did I just say? Never mind, forget it. But yeah, it's just not, that's not an accurate representation of what he was and stuff. Like, I mean, as a historical figure, like he represented a lot of things that, like, for example, like Martin Luther King was a socialist, dude.
Full blown.
Like
unapologetic.
I mean, like, and to think,
borderline like communist. Well, not, but he had he had a lot of I know it triggered a ton of you, but he had some communist tendencies, you could say.
I mean, yeah, because socialism, I mean, is basically just yeah. I would imagine that he was. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I would imagine he was probably amicable towards the like idea, like the idea of communism and stuff like that. Like he was a Marxist. Like so, I mean, it doesn't really matter.
Right. But what's funny is that like people never talk about that aspect of him.
Yeah, because like he wanted to. Because I mean, like the Black Panthers were doing like basically like food drives and stuff like that. And he wanted to do like an entire like food program and stuff like that to try to you know, help underprivileged communities and stuff like that. It's more particularly Black people and stuff. But it would have been like if you brought up the ideas that like some of the ideas like that one today, it would like get destroyed. Like people would like I don't know. It would be similar to universal healthcare discussion and stuff like that. Like the dude was
totally.
I don't know. It just
you know
crazy.
What's even funny is like, so I had an interaction like this recently online on Facebook, which I normally don't really engage a ton on Facebook and comments and different things like that. But so I had this interaction, and it was in the summer, kind of 2020, kind of right in the height of all the BLM.
I said Salem. I meant to say Selma. That's what I was thinking. I was like, Selma. I said something stupid. Selma. All right, continue.
So in the summer of 2020, there was, you know, during the BLM, all kind of the after George Floyd and kind of the height of all their protests and different things going on. And I shared a photo, and it was posted by some like publication. I don't remember what publication, but I was actually just skimming through Facebook, and I saw this publication, and it was like the day after the march on Washington, like the anniversary of MLK's march on Washington. And it was like, and it was funny because the photo was a picture of the march on Washington, and then below it was another photo of like a BLM protest that had happened the day before, and it was like, you know, whatever, 50 something years to the day, we're still marching just like we did on the March on Washington, right? And it was funny, I didn't even see the BLM photo. I was like, oh yeah, it's anniversary. I shared it, right? And so then this guy jumps in my comments, and he's like, you know, BLM and Martin Luther King had nothing in common. Like Martin Luther King was fighting for real issues. BLM, like they're just crybabies, right? Now, normally, I don't care about these comments, you know, and I don't know why this day I was just kind of like, all right, why not? You know, I'll jump in. Why not? You know what I'm saying? I'll poke the bear. And I was like, you know, and so we get in this whole thing, and I'm, you know, it's a whole long thread. I'm not gonna go over the whole thing, but basically the points I was making to him was, you know, he gets all upset. He was like, well, you know, BLM is just a bunch of socialists, it's just a bunch of Marxists, and we should basically throw everything they
literally
say out.
And so really quick, if you make that comment, every like prominent figure, almost every prominent figure during the civil rights era was a socialist. And that was my comment. I'm really sorry, but if you have an issue with that, like I don't know.
Like, so you're saying how much you respect MLK, except for the fact that he was a full-blown socialist.
In a realistic world where they had accomplished all the goals that they were marching towards, we would live in a. And
he goes, well, it doesn't matter. Like he was fighting for something good. So I was like, so then why was, if you're by your own admission, you're saying that Martin Luther King, who was a socialist, just because a socialist doesn't mean he disregarded you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny that like they would use that kind of like language to like obviously attack BLM or whatever the case is. And it's like, well, whatever your like aversion to socialism is, it doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that like the issues that people are talking about aren't true.
Yeah,
Like,
it doesn't disqualify. Also,
doesn't
considering that
disqualify.
most people that like are, I know that probably most of the like main, maybe like the main like figures that are heading the movement and stuff like that are established. The organization are socialists and stuff, but like massively like the support for BLM, is like people that are liberal or some conservative people and stuff like that. Like it's a very well supported movement that's very like diverse, and like the political representation of the people that are like invested in it. I don't know how many maybe not as many conservative people, but it's mostly liberal people. Like they're not all.
Well, and it just goes to show, man, it's so interesting in this day and age. I don't know if did you watch on Netflix the documentary The Social Dilemma? It's really good. But basically it talks so much about how social media has played this huge part into creating this like massive divide where, like, it's just so interesting to me. Like there's just certain trigger words that people use all the time where again, where this person was like, they're, BLM, they're socialists, they're Marxists. And I'm like, well, okay, like that's a whole different discussion about like socialism and capitalism or whatever, but it's just like, what does that have to do with the overall argument that they're talking about, which was racial equality
injustice and
exactly. So, but people have been people, and it's not just social media, but it's definitely been worsened with introduction of social media and whatnot. But people just kind of have these natural like kickbacks, and they already have these takedowns of like, well, they're Marxists or they're socialists or they're liberals or they're Democrats, and and it goes both ways too. Like it happens both ways too. Where people are like, well, they're conservatives. So, and it's like we dig into these camps, and what happens, and I think especially happens with MLK, that's super interesting, is we never have a full discussion. We don't have a discussion about the fullness of who MLK is, because it would actually, it tears down like this idea that people have of him, which to me is actually okay, because I don't think
I'm perfectly fine with that.
I think we've watered down who he is. And I'm not even, understand, this is where me and him kind of a little bit disagree. I'm not like really a socialist. Like I'm not really down with socialism. I'm not like, I don't think socialism is like the end of the world and like, oh my God, it's the worst thing ever. But like, what I'm saying? Like I'm definitely for a free market. I'm all about capitalism in some regards, in some regards I'm down with socialism in some ways, but I'm not like, I'm not like waving the banner of socialism. So I'm not saying that like to be a fan of MLK, you have to be a socialist.
No,
but what I'm
not.
saying is, we have a watered down version of we've made MLK very one dimensional.
Well, that's the thing, is like he's a prop. He's propaganda.
Yeah.
He creates this. It's like he's used as this ideological. I guess like what's like a good word for it? Almost like a almost like a mirror for us to try to like cast our own ideologies onto, and we use him as like a visage for what we want to be as Americans.
I had someone once who was like, I had someone one day, it was, I read it in a comment. They weren't commenting back to me, but they were, and he goes, like MLK wouldn't be down for the Democratic, like, or something, like MLK wouldn't be down for like what the Democrats, and I was like,
he'd be down for something that you would hate more. I don't know, man.
Bruh. Like, he was kind of almost capitulating him to like, he would be like a right wing. Like he'd be, and I was like,
he would not.
I was like, man, look, again, I'm not saying that you have to agree with everything MLK, but to sit there and to say that shows how much we've, what I'm saying? We've just made him this like guy who did these great speeches, and like obviously, like everyone now is
from the reality.
Yeah, everyone now is okay with the quality, but they're not okay with, what I'm saying? Like, and it's really weird. Like it's just really weird. And I think for me as a black dude, who again, I love reading a ton of, to me, I don't say I have a ton of heroes, because heroes usually let you down, but I definitely grew up respecting and really like having a ton of reverence for almost everything. A lot of the things that he says and he spoke for it, and like not just his speeches, like the big quotable speeches that we have, but I mean, I love listening to a lot of his speeches, a lot of his sermons, even the ones that don't have video. I love reading letters from a Birmingham jail. Like I love so much of what he does, but it is very interesting. Even for me, who's not a social, like I would never. Again, I'm not saying I'm a socialist, but even when I'm just looking out and I'm just going like, what are like? You guys clearly have no idea what you're talking about in regards to him and what he stood for and what his movement was about.
Yeah,
and I think it's totally fine to believe in his and what his message and what his cause was, and not agree with everything that he said or did. But I also don't think it's right for you to not acknowledge that and to not give an accurate representation of who he was.
I think that's like our country just doesn't have like a very like what do you call it, positive relationship with socialism as an ideology, and like historically it's always been kind of used as this
it creates a very visceral reaction.
Yeah, I mean, like we've used it as a I can't think of, dude, my brain. I'm so like
it's late.
It's late, man.
it's late here.
We've always kind of used it as a like boogeyman that we like. I mean, during like the whole Red Scare and stuff like that, especially like it was. And even when in the 1920s and stuff like that, you know, when people like there's a lot also like never mind. It's not real. There's a ton of like union sentiment, and people were trying to unionize and a lot of that stuff, and a lot of business moguls and
right.
I mean, people wanted to crush it because it would be bad for them.
You hear it now, not to get like super political. This is not to be a political discussion, but like you do hear it now, relevant. Like even with this whole recent election cycle of how much it was like
with Trump calling Biden a socialist,
dude. I'm just like,
what?
Whoa,
like
that,
bro.
But like, dude, even the people like I see in comments who will say that stuff, and it's just like
you guys don't know.
It's very interesting, and again, I'm not making this a political discussion, but. It is very interesting to see, though, how I'm trying to think of the right phrase, but we've done this with MLK, where we have picked apart America by law just picked apart the things that we didn't fit into the American narrative about MLK, and we don't talk about it. We don't teach about it in schools. You know, again, we've talked about this in the past, how even like when you read about, you know, the civil rights movement and, you know, the mid to late 50s and the 60s, and the way it's taught like in history books, it's just kind of like, you know, we talk about the March on Selma, you know, the March on Washington, you know, the assassination attempt or the assassination of MLK, and then it was like, and the civil rights movement was over and everything was better, and it's like,
and that's just
what?
Yeah, and that's it's like casting a silhouette of a real historical person that had a lot of views. And sorry, just to finish what I was saying before, like we don't engage with people's ideas, like the actual, like what they actually represent in a like holistic, like holistic's not the right word, not the word I'm looking for, but like a fully developed, like
especially when we disagree with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, maybe you don't disagree with it. Maybe you should just read what he had to say and study who he is. And I think that would be much more productive. And I think it's always better to just know, like, you know, sometimes people straight up just lie and suck and stuff like that, but to at least have a good idea of what people say they are, and to have a good, like very healthy understanding of what people are and what they represent.
Instead of regurgitating. Exactly.
Just like going with the idea of like, and I think that's a disservice that's been done to us. But I mean, I would say it's done purposefully to some extent, but, you know, our, you know, education system and stuff like that, saying like, creating this really, I don't know, is antiquated the right word for it? No. I don't know. This just really dumb, watered down,
pacifist or
watered down,
one-dimensional
picture of who MLK was. It's not real, and
It's not.
I think it also makes it harder for us in like the age that we're living in to be able to really, digest what's happening and to be able to use that as a reference accurately for like how we approach the situation, because it's like, let's be super real. Like, yes, MLK, I don't know to what extent or what it would be because he's dead, but like,
Right.
I'm pretty sure he would be down for Black Lives Matter. I would really struggle to see any way that he wouldn't be.
Right.
And like, let's be real too. Like the way that a lot of the ways that this movement has been cast, a lot of malign and a lot of misrepresentation and like by like a lot of media people, like media organizations and stuff like that is like fully represented, like fully what's the parallel to a lot of the stuff that was happening with MLK, like
MLK.
he peacefully organizing and stuff like that, and there were people rioting.
I had that same conversation with this
At the
guy in
same
the
time,
comments where he said these like 4 or 5 phrases that he said about BLM, and I said, you realize that's the exact same thing they said about MLK, and he was like, no. I found these political cartoons where it was like, all this different stuff where it was be like, and I was like, this is literally the same message they painted about MLK. Now look, again, you can sit there and go, I disagree with, I disagree with MLK or with BLM. I disagree with their movement. Okay, but you cannot change what they said and what their movement was.
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can sit there and go, look, I disagree, or I wouldn't have done it that way, or whatever. Fine. It's a free country, free nation. Like, what? Cool. I'm not even like disparaging you for that. But what gets really weird is when we again pick and choose from MLK what we want, and then when people have been using, especially these last year or so, using MLK to like bash Black Lives Matter, it is weird. It is. You're like, what? Like, and that's where I'm like, you clearly didn't read. You don't know anything about them. All you know about is these. And again, like I wouldn't even like go as far. Like I'm never gonna speak for someone, especially if they're dead or whatever. Like, I don't know what he would be down for or what he wouldn't be down for. But what I would say is that
I can make an educated guess, but
what I would say is that what we know about him from his own mouth and what he, like what he said, it doesn't line up with this idea that, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm not, you know what I'm saying? But it doesn't line up with what the other side is saying. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it just doesn't. Like
I'm gonna say 2 things right now, and they're gonna be harsh.
Okay.
All right.
Say it.
I think MLK Day is the one day out of the year that a lot of people can just like not feel bad about being racist. Is one thing I'm gonna say.
Yes.
And then the second thing I'm gonna say is like a lot of people that want to come out here saying, "Oh, MLK wouldn't be down for like BLM and stuff," or like they're not protesting in the right way and stuff. Like some of y'all are just on some BS, dude. Like some of you guys, hold on, let me just finish. Let me finish this thought. Kaepernick. I think some of y'all are on some BS, and I think maybe you just need to look at yourself and think. I think there's a little bit more honesty you need to like try to dig up, because it's like I think you're just not down.
Well, I think that goes to the frustration that, again, this is where you and I totally agree. Is like there's a frustration when I see people, and I'll be real about it. There's people I see in my own life, people I'm friends with or I know, and I'll see them posting MLK Day, and I'm going, nothing about your life.
Yeah,
on
you are not down. Do not
364 days reflect his message.
Nah,
and,
not at all.
You're like you said, it's like,
it's so
it's
funny.
Kind of this idea where we go, look, we're not racist, and it's like, well,
like I see I see these
I'm
posts.
not saying you're racist, but you're definitely not. Your life isn't lining up with like who MLK is. So it just kind of feels weird when you celebrate. It'd be like if someone who was like a full blown atheist and they're like celebrating some you know what I'm saying? You'd be like, but you're not like your whole lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? This is kind of like, it's kind of weird.
It's funny. It's really interesting to me too, because it's like a lot of people like go on like I've heard this thing a bunch of times. It's like, well, the problem is people having like radical views or having like these really like big ideological stances and stuff like that, and like it's like you're super far over here, you're super far over there. It's like you guys equality was a radical idea, like, and it still is. Like, living in a world where we have dismantled systems of oppression, and where there really is no such thing as marginalized like peoples and stuff is a radical view. Totally. And a lot of people want to come up.
Yeah, it was when he, especially when that civil rights movement came about.
Yeah,
it was, I mean, radical. It was divisive.
It was incredibly divisive.
You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, for sure.
A lot of people, like, it doesn't matter that he was, that his movement was one of the ways that it was organized was like on the basis of, peaceful organizing and stuff like that. Like, that was divisive. Sometimes there's ideologies you have, and people aren't gonna match with you on it. They're not down, and I think that's something that we kind of have to, like. I think we live in we've grown up in a age where we've been kind of held a lot of these kind of, I guess, like it's almost like weird, like it's almost like effigies, like these historical figures that are like these idols and stuff that we kind of like praise for the things they accomplish and stuff, but we don't engage with the fact, like, we live in a very like milk toast kind of like, I don't know, lifestyle where it's like everything's just like very, very soft. Like, you don't want to push too hard. You don't want to be like the person that's like stands on an idea very hard, because then you by the nature of having strong ideas and stuff, you're going to have people that don't mess with you. You know what I mean? You create, like, you, by the nature of what you do, creating enemies. And I think, like, we haven't come to grips with the fact that, like, living in a better world means that, like, some people, you're just, like, you're going to have to walk on, you're going to have to let them stay where they're at and stuff. You got to keep moving forward and stuff. And that's a hard idea to mess with and stuff. But, like, that was MLK, dude. He was not playing around, dude. Those people marching were not like, oh, well, maybe like, oh, dude, the Birmingham letters, dude. Right. He literally wrote in one of his letters, the greatest enemy of progress. I'm gonna, paraphrase it, whatever. Is like, the greatest enemy of progress is not the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate liberal, who says, oh, I want some change, but I don't know. You're going a little too fast for me, or you're being a little bit. It's
Which
a little
is funny,
too much.
because I've seen people use that as like, see, MLK wouldn't be down with the liberals.
That's not what he was saying.
That's not even.
He was a socialist. So what you think a liberal is might be a little bit different.
Just like, you guys need to learn context.
Yeah,
like, that's just,
you need to learn context. You need to learn some definitions.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's a great quote by him. 100%.
He would. Yeah. I just think I think that, like, there's a lot of people that I don't know if it's like a product of like living your life not having like a really big thing that you stand on, or that you really care about, or it's like just living like a life that's like kind of like you're not ever getting moved by anything, nothing's ever like really a threat to you, but I think that maybe just the way that we've grown up, because we're like part of that, because we're black and stuff, it's like almost out of necessity in some instances. Like, obviously there's black people that don't care about that stuff or whatever, but I mean, I think it's like there's almost this like feeling of responsibility or whatever that I have to make the world better for other people, and I feel like maybe there's like some kind of empathy that's developed in me and stuff, and it's made me more passionate about other. Well, two things I want
to say. I think in kind of regards to what you're saying, I think there's just like a frustrate that for me. That's again, I want people to celebrate MLK and whatnot, but it just feels very frustrating when it feels like you've taken one of our heroes, and again, I don't like using that word a ton, but you've taken one of our heroes, or one of our people, or one of our pioneers, one of our people that really fought for us in a way that was sacrificial, cost him his life, and cost him, I mean, before that, a ton. And you take him and his message and you pervert it to like this really apathetic, and this really just cookie cutter thing that doesn't cause anyone like any discomfort and any change.
It's just milk toast. It's like
but it causes a
yeah.
frustration. Like for me on MLK,
Yeah.
sometimes I'm just like, yeah, man, I don't want to see any of y'all post about him because
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I feel
like
the same
you
way.
know what I'm saying. Like you don't, and this is flesh sinful George come out. I'm like, man, you don't deserve the right. Like you don't deserve the right to be posting and to be celebrating someone when your life, you know what I'm saying, like doesn't emulate, doesn't reflect. Like you, even again, I'm not saying that you have to be a socialist. I'm just saying you have stripped everything about this man that made him like as powerful as he was to fit in your narrative that like we're not racist as America, or you know what I'm saying? It's like, and that kind of goes to my second point, which you were talking about it. You're like, I don't know how this happens, but I think, you know, this is just my kind of perspective of looking at history and where we're at now. It's kind of like, I feel like what really has happened was, again, understand context. He was, the year before he was assassinated, voted the most hated man in America, right? So he wasn't this like lovable figure by any means, or you know, by no means was he seen as that. And I think what happened was, you know, he gets killed, and kind of, you know, as time goes by, like people realize how wrong they were about, you know, some of their views and different things as far as the civil rights movement. And so when you're forced into that like realization, then it's kind of like, you know, this is a sports thing, but like you see this in sports where like all of a sudden people are like, oh yeah, I'm a fan of the Lakers, and you're like, no, you weren't. Like you just were when they won. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like when the times weren't good or in the middle of the season, you were never like, hey, that's my team. But the minute they win, or the minute you realize MLK was right, then it's like, yeah, let's celebrate MLK. I have a dream. That's a great speech. But it never forces you to reconcile with you or your history or your family's history that like you guys may not have been down, and you actually might have been the people he was talking about in some of those speeches and some of those sermons or in those letters, right? And so what happens is because no one wants to be on that side of history, no one wants to be seen as that, they you know what I'm saying, like they pick and choose what parts they want to celebrate, and they never pick the parts about him that is directly aimed at themselves.
Yeah, and I think I respect that though. Like in all reality of like people that are like, yo, I got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I was on the wrong tip, bro. Like,
and they change, and
they shift, and I think that's dope. Like,
right.
Own that. That's
Right.
like a really good thing, and I think it's really productive because other people can see.
Right.
Oh well, I'm getting it wrong.
Right.
Like, I think people want to always act like they like, you know, we're always on, you know, just like you said, the right side of history, or like on the right team all the time and stuff. And it's like, that's not what it's about. It's not about being right. It's just about doing the right thing.
Right.
And like, if that takes like 5 years for you to figure it out,
Right.
like, cool, like jump in. But like, I don't know. I think it's just, yeah.
Yeah, I you know, again, and I don't want to speak for every black person or anything like that, but I definitely know there's just, I think there's for a lot of black people, there's kind of this weird feeling on MLK Day or weekend where it's just kind of like, all right, man, y'all go out there in front and talk about how much y'all love this man, but like we're watching the other 364 days too. You know what I'm saying? Like we're watching.
Yeah,
and
real.
for most of us, we're like, there's a phrase that black people use, man, you fronting. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you fronting, like. You know, again, it's just it's weird to me. I'm gonna be real with you. On my feed on MLK Day, I'm looking at some of y'all and just being like, all right,
That's whack.
All right.
Cool.
Okay, cool, man.
Nice.
You know, let all your followers know that you for him. But like,
Nice pose. Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's real. Like it is real. And so there's just kind of this, I don't know. For me, there's kind of this weird visceral reaction when I see some of that going on, and you know, you've seen that. And again, this is a little bit more of a in-house comment, but you see this in the church. You know, you see this. You know, a lot of church. You know, almost every church in America is gonna post something on MLK Day. You know what I'm saying? And you see it, but you just go, yeah, man. But your congregation is like 95% white. So like,
No, hold up, wait. No, they're not. They're like 95% racist, bro.
yeah, but it's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just kind of like, all right, like, cool, man. That's cool that you post that. But like, when the rubber meets the road, what are you really doing? You know what I mean? And if you're not really willing to fight those systems, if you're not really in a meaningful way willing to speak up about, some of these things that cause these inequalities or these injustices or you know what I'm saying? If you're not willing to look in the mirror and really address not just this idea of inequality, but what causes it, what feeds the machine, what ways that you're passively contributing to it or you're actively contributing to it. Because let's be real, that happens. And it doesn't mean that like you're an evil person or that like it doesn't mean, especially if it's something maybe passive, that like you're doing it intentionally. But if you're not willing to look in the mirror and go, hey, these are ways that, I've turned a blind eye or I've been passive towards this, or, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm contributing to this and whether I knew it or didn't, these are areas I need to change. If you're not willing to do that, then to me, it's kind of like, then don't post about them. Mm-hmm. Just, whatever, take your day off, go grill and chill. Like, but don't sit here and pretend like, you know what I'm saying? Like you're down for the movement. Cause it's like, again, it's just like, you got to understand, white people, I'm gonna let you know, your black friends are looking at you on MLK Day kind of sideways. They just kind of like,
my boy sus.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I do, bro. Like, I don't know if I should say it, but like, I know people who like I knew people, or, I know of people who like flew a Confederate flag, but like posted on MLK Day. And I'm just like, you are confused as frick. Like, you know what I'm saying? People is like, you sending a lot of
signals. Like, you share?
And someone's you lying to somebody.
Your account, bro?
You lying to somebody. And it's just like, but it just goes to show like how, and we've talked about this, and this is like kind of last point I'll make, and you can close it, but it just kind of goes to show how, I've said this before to you, I think I've said it on the show, but how much people talk about systematic racism, and there's, again, I know some of you guys are triggered even by saying that, but one of the things about systematic racism for me, we should get a little button, triggered. One of the things about systematic racism for me is that I see is that how much it conditions people, generally white people. My wife tells me to not say white people as much on here or like whatever, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like she's like, hey, you can't just say white people all the time. Like, that's the way I see it. But like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sorry.
Keep going.
Focus. How much is conditioned a lot of times white people to believe like they're not racist. You know what I'm saying? Like it's very intentional. And like, I believe the system is set up that way intentionally to condition white people to not see areas in their life where, again, okay, maybe now I won't use the word racist, but like that they are, prejudice, or that they are, having areas of white privilege or injustices or whatever the case is. And so you could have someone fly a Confederate flag and quote MLK. And you just go, to me, it's like, that is systematic racism working at its finest.
That's
to where you can sit there and try and fly two flags at one time. Yeah, I'm okay. And it's like, but you're flying the flag.
This triangle is not fitting in this circle hole, bro.
It's like, come on, man. And so I believe that's at work in everyone's life, in my own life. I have to check myself on stuff too all the time. You know what I'm saying? But like, you gotta be real. You gotta be willing to, again, in this specific instance, to look at someone like an MLK holistically and everything that they teach and talk about and what he stood for. I'm not saying you have to agree with everything. I'm not saying that you have to be a socialist. I'm not saying, but what I'm saying is, don't ignore the facts. Don't capitulate him to your, your ideology. Like, he spoke for himself a lot. Like
quite a bit.
Like, he made a living out of speaking for what his ideas and what his thoughts are. Educate yourself on that. Mm-hmm. Educate yourself on that. And then formulate, Then you can really formulate, opinions or a real accurate view of him, his view, what his thoughts are, so that when you speak and you go, when you celebrate MLK Day, you have a real, true, accurate view of what that means and what that looks like, and what, like, if you're going to celebrate MLK, then you should know what he was about, and not the "I have a dream," not the last two sentences of "I have a dream" speech. Like, come on now. Like, we got to do better than that. And I feel like that's where we're at. Like, we really just boiled him down to these few speeches we really like, these few little, like, one little sentence quotes that we love pulling up on MLK Day. And then that's it. Like, that's, like, literally the extent of what we know about him. And it's like, man, what, like, the system, like, you know, I'm not, like, a conspiracy guy or, you know, that kind of stuff. But I'm like, man, the system has done its job of stripping MLK of who he was. And let's be real about it. I'm not a conspiracy guy, but like the government isn't really down like with MLK, you know what I'm saying? Or like I'll put it this, the establishment is not down for MLK. It's not down for, again, it's cool to say we're down for equality. It's cool to say that, but if you're going to say that, you need to look at his view, because we're celebrating MLK and him, what his view of how to achieve that. And again, not saying you have to agree with everything, but you got to know what that is before you sit there and go, I'm gonna celebrate MLK. And white people, I'm gonna let you know on a little secret, your black friends, they're looking at you, and they probably already formulated a pretty decent formulated opinion about you. But you know what I'm saying? Like that, it's just, it's hard not to be, it's just, you know, whatever. You could say we're wrong, but it's hard not to look at that and just be like, you're fronting. You're fronting. And we know what you're doing. You post your Instagram, you get the likes, and you know what I'm saying? What's it called? Is it called virtue signaling? Is that what that phrase is kind of referred to? Is, you know, you're putting out there that I'm not racist, but all your black friends are going, we know what you about.
Yeah.
We know what you about. And so, I don't know. We felt like to jump back into this new season of Black on Black, or I don't know if it's really a new season, but back into these episodes. That was something we were both kind of frustrated on. And obviously with MLK coming up, something we thought we'd speak on. And those are just some of my thoughts. You want to close it out with any final thoughts you have? Tired? You're tired of the beat? No, I'm blank.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you kind of said it all. It's just it's a really weird like, you know, time in history that we're living through a lot of very significant, you know, historical events right now. And I mean, we're like, you know, it's crazy to think, you know, that this far out, even though it really hasn't been that long since the civil rights movement and stuff like that, but just in such a short amount of time, how much of like the image of, you know, MLK has been kind of, you know, manipulated and warped.
That's a good word.
It's kind of crazy to think about. And I think it's just, I think it's sad that like that as like such a prominent figure that he is, that we don't, that it's like almost it feels sometimes impossible to even have like a real discussion about a lot of the things that, you know, he accomplished in his lifetime, and, you know, what he represented and stuff like that, what he was about. And I think it's just very parallel to like how difficult it is to even have discussions right now about everything going on. That's really good. And I think it says a lot about like how our history, like, you know, you mentioned like systemic racism and stuff like that. Like, you know, I feel like it's a disservice to even just say, you know, to, you know, single out white people. Like, all of us, like, white supremacy is like the standard. Like, we all whether we want to or not, you know, we contribute to that, you know, that system and stuff like that. Black people, white people, brown people, everybody does, because that's just the standard. And and I think that's like what's really stands out about people like Martin Luther King, is like they did the work to make that end. And I think every time
it's a disservice.
Every time somebody misrepresents that and says something like makes a offhanded comment about him, and, you know, tries to, you know, use it as a way to malign the current movement and stuff like that. It's like, guys, like, you don't know what you're talking about. Right. Like, stop. It's frustrating, and it is annoying when people try to use, a really, a person that did a lot of service to do the right thing and stuff like that, and using that as like a, as their way to feel a little bit better about all like the, racist ideas they might have or whatever it is. I don't know why anybody does that kind of stuff or whatever. And maybe it's just like a lack of education on the figure. Maybe it's a lot of people miscommunicating who he is. I'm sure it's like a whole collection of things.
Right.
But I think it's like right now is a time to just knock it off and like really just like embrace. If you really, really like Martin Luther King, just read about him.
Yes.
And like figure out what it was he was about. You don't have to take my word for it. You have to take George's word for it.
Totally.
All the information's out there.
He said it.
I'm telling you, if you hate socialism, you're gonna be really bummed reading about him. And like it's just like, dude, like let's just like embrace what's going on and stuff, and stop demonizing all these different things, like like these like like good ideas and stuff like that, as if they're like some kind of like immediate evil. If you hate an ideology, know why you don't like it. Like, be able to say like, I don't mess with this ideology. I don't mess with this. I don't mess with this kind of system of this economic system. I don't mess with this or that. Like, have words for it. Don't just like jump in because somebody else tells you.
Right.
And I'm not going to say that like you can't learn from, I'm not saying that to say like don't learn from people that know more than you, don't like learn more from experts and stuff like that.
For sure.
But just at the same time, don't take everything that everybody says at their word.
Do not regurgitate.
Yeah, just try to learn. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm trying to like communicate that idea without being like, oh, don't believe anything, because I think that's equally as stupid.
Right.
Find the reasonable place in what I'm saying, and go from there. Learn about MLK. If you want to say something about him, say it knowing what he actually is about, and don't like try to just like regurgitate your own ideas through the lens of a figure that's dead and probably doesn't agree with what you think.
Look, this is I definitely want to end on that. How to like, I don't want to just harp on this. I really want people to like, I think there's growth to be had here. Definitely a great place to start is read Letters from a Birmingham Jail, written by Martin Luther King. It's a great place to start. Obviously, it's written by him. It's from his perspective.
I agree. I think that's a great place to start.
I'll put that link in our description and everything. Look, if you don't have the money for it, I'll buy it for you. Unless,
pretty sure you can just find a PDF or something.
Yeah, like it's not even that hard to obtain. But if you really like, if that's really a barrier for you, unless this video gets like 1 million views and like 100,000 you guys hit me up for that, then I don't know. But like you know what I'm saying? It's not hard.
I'll send you the link.
It's really not that hard. But don't like there's ways for you to educate yourself and to do that. Also, a great thing to do is just really YouTube and listen to a couple full speeches of his. Not just I Have a Dream or you can listen to that one because it's a great one, but not just like the last 2 minutes, the only part that everyone posts about. There's so much stuff that he talks about. And that's why I used to just listen to a lot of his sermons in full. They're phenomenal. He speaks up on a lot of different things.
Also, I'm gonna say this. Maybe look up like a couple of civil rights figures besides MLK and some people in the post civil rights era. Like look up. Trying to think of. Fred Hampton was like just had it. Dude. I think it was one of the anniversaries of his death or whatever.
Yes.
You should read. There's a book that was written by Fred Hampton's lawyer because. Sorry, I'm like just throwing out all these like social people. No, it's a really good book.
Yes.
And then Malcolm X,
John Lewis.
Read about him.
Yeah. There's plenty of there's plenty of people and there's lots of stuff. I think the overall idea is this kind of idea where we have to just regurgitate what's been said to us and we just we kind of front like get to know these people. Again, it doesn't mean you have to agree with everything. That's not the point of what we're trying to say. But we're saying educate yourself and, be willing to do the work. Dismantling racism is hard work. It's intentional work. I think in general, all people, black people, brown people, white people, we default to a very...
Read Ibram X. Kendi. How to be an anti-racist.
Wait, what is that?
Ibram X. Kendi. He has a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist.
I don't think I've read that one.
Oh, it's really good.
I've heard.
But it says it's basically like what you just said. Anti-racism is hard work.
It's hard work. It's intentional. Everyone has their own tendencies and defaults to have preferential treatment to their own kind. That's normal. That's natural human behavior. So if you're not actively fighting against that, you're probably defaulting to it. So do research, like especially here in America, because let's just be honest, that's one of my favorite phrases from this guy I follow. It's in the soil, like racism. It's in the soil, and you really can't convince me otherwise. It's just in the soil. So if you're not being actively against that, then you're probably defaulting to it, and so
which is kind of even worse because that's pretty exploitative of you if you hate racism.
Yeah. And it's also, that's almost hard. It's kind of back to the MLK quote that you said earlier. The KKK people don't bother me. I mean, they do, but they do, but they're not the people who scare me. Cause it's kind of like, if you get someone in a white hood, you're like, that dude's probably racist.
What sketches me out.
But it's the people who have these tendencies and don't believe they're doing anything wrong. Mm-hmm. They actually believe they're not racist. And those are the people that are actually the hardest.
They're like, I'm with it.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm with it. I love MLK. And it's like, do you realize that your life doesn't speak that?
Yeah.
Those are the people that are actually the hardest to kind of engage with. So don't be those people.
Nope.
Engage, do the work, and let's all work on being anti-racist together. You know what I'm saying?
That's some deuce.
All right, y'all. This is a long episode. Just want to let you guys know a few things. We will be back, I believe, starting the first week in February. We'll be back. We're going to do some things for Black History Month and kind of talk about some of that, which I'm sure will be interesting. But we wanted to drop this episode here for Martin Luther King. We'll be dropping them all on Mondays. We are on Spotify playlists. We have a Facebook page. We're on Apple Podcasts. We have an Instagram.
Yes, we do. And
I have a YouTube that I post these on, so you can just follow me.
Yes, sir.
There it is. But Black on Black Podcast, we're excited to be back here in 2021. Follow us, not just because we want followers, but because we want to hear from you. Let us know. We're going to try and do a lot more like questionnaires and get you guys some ideas and topics or things you want to talk to. You guys want to hear on the podcast. We're definitely excited to connect with you guys in 2021. I've said this before. If you get wild in the comments or in the DMs, I'll block you.
You gone.
Yeah, because I ain't got that kind of energy.
Yep, me neither. Sorry, I'm so tired. I won't be this tired for the other pod.
Probably will, because we film these pretty late consistently. But anyways, I think that's it. My name is George.
I'm KJ.
And that was
Black
on Black.